What's up, everybody? So I just want to go through some data real quick. I'm sitting here on the VAERS website. I downloaded the 2021 data 113 megabyte zip file. That's right here, download complete. I then went and reconstructed some of the data, downloads VAERS 21 data. And there's symptoms sheet, there's a vaccine sheet which gives you IDs, and I'll give you some information about that in a second. But the main sheet here, based on compressed size, is the VAERS data size, right? So I got several Excels open because I had to concatenate the data across multiple different sets. So let's just start with the, this is my finished product right here, but we'll get to that in just a second. I want to show you, so the VAERS symptoms spreadsheet right here only had on its data sets, the VAERS number, like case identification number, and there are 683,000 for 2021 lines, that is, right? And then they have the symptoms triaged out, right? So symptom 1, groin pain, death. Symptom 2, then they have like a number assigned to it, like a code. Symptom 3, symptom 4, 5, and 6, all the way on, right? And the thing about data structures like this is it becomes hard to actually get this all into one location. And so what I did is I did a simple concatenate, and I ran a formula saying, give me B, comma, space, give me D, which is right here, comma, space, give me F, give me H, give me J, all with comma spaces. And you can kind of just see my concatenate formula there. Then I just I tabbed it down where you just did this little thing right here, and it just shoots it straight down, boom, and it does all the calculation for you right here. See this? Boom. All right, there we go. All right. Now we have a list of the vaccine ID, or the case ID is the best way to put it, and then like a simplified list of all the actual symptoms, right? All right, so that's one data set. Remember, we were talking about in the folder, there are 3 data sets. And then I went to the other data set, which is the, so this right here, this data set only gave you the case ID and then like the manufacturer, the lot, which is important. What's the route, the site, right? So I'm guessing that's state, which vaccine name, and then they had a list of stuff that I added to it, right? So this is my formula that I VLOOKed up from the other sheet into this sheet. And then I took that data, created a pivot table, and here's some interesting information across all states for 2021, all states. Of the 533 cases on this sheet, Pfizer and Moderna had, 250,000 almost each for adverse reactions, right? And then Janssen, I guess that's probably Johnson & Johnson, I don't know. So, just some highlights and lowlights. All these other vaccine companies and vaccine, GlaxoSmithKline 3,000 reported to VAERS for 2021. All right, so now let's go to the main sheet. This is the big sheet right here. And I only added this, right? So it did these 2 columns were not here originally. It was the vaccine ID, right? The case ID, right? Received date, if that information was available, the state, the age of the person, the sex of the person, and then a list of their concatenated symptoms, right? But that's just like, word vomit, right? And it's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that this column K is not important, but it's a lot. Right, it's hard to generate like symptoms and analysis that way. The vaccine date, the onset of the symptoms, how many days, looks like lab data, if there's any lab data, rapid COVID done, 24-hour test. So I'm guessing that's based on testing or something along those lines, right? Other medications used and all this stuff. There's a lot of good data in here. And like I said, there are, 512,000 lines, so 500,000 lines here. And so I just pivoted this data. Oh, by the way, what I did here, B and C, is I just VLOOKed up into it from the other sheets what vaccine type and what manufacturer type. And now let's go ahead and do a quick VLOOKUP into this sheet asking what are the concatenated symptoms, right? So let's go find that, and that's in this symptoms thing. So we'll go all the way over here to C, come back over here, we'll say from A to C, 3 and false, right? So very basic VLOOKUP stuff. And so now we have a concise list of the types of symptoms that are happening, right? So let's call it SIMS. All right, here's our actual pivot table based on the data. And I just want to real quickly, let's save this before we crash this sheet. Yeah, we'll just save it to my desktop. Boom. And let's call it VAX. There we go, boom. Oh, okay, I see what it's saying. So I tried to save it in the incorrect, so it's CSV limited, delimited. Okay, there we go. Now we change it to Excel, now we can save it anywhere. So let's save it to the desktop, boom. VAX 1, 2. All right, so now we have a pivot table, and I just wanted to run by the vaccine type in this table. So we have like DTaP, diphtheria, or something like that. We have flus, vaccines. We have, you know, all the vaccine types. So this is just a quick by type number of VAERS cases per state. And my computer is thinking really hard right now, so we'll give it a chance to catch its breath. But real quickly, let's just take a look at the data that we can see while it's thinking really hard. The COVID-19 vaccine type, main companies, Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech, and then unknown, across states. So let's look at the states here. Immediately, you see California, 25,000 cases of Moderna reporting, 20,000 cases of Pfizer reporting. Florida, a lot. So all the way across, these are the cases reported to VAERS that actually made it to the website that I was able to download right now on September 3rd, 2021. Keep cruising across. So, you know, there's a pattern here, 5,000, 1,000. There's some states like, I don't know what MP is. What state is MP? Montana, you know, in line with the population and most likely the amount of people getting vaccinated in those states. So here's Texas where I live. Texas, 15,000, 9,000. And then all the way across, I'm just kind of showing you to get to the very end here. The grand total, right, of cases reported of VAERS adverse reaction side effects for 2021 across vaccine types, you know, 500,000, a quarter million, right? So Pfizer, Moderna, that kind of thing, right? So total of these 4 columns, 500,000 cases that made it to the vaccine adverse reaction database here, per state, or all the states together, right? And look at these states, right? XL, XV, you know, there's data that's wrong. And then quickly look here, the blank, right? So I'm guessing these are cases that did not have a state assigned to it, right? And we could probably just go in here and just test that theory. So state, take out all the states, here's the blanks. So there's, you know, probably upwards of, you know, 20, 30,000 vaccine adverse reaction. There's 57,515 adverse reaction cases here reported to VAERS that made it to the sheet today that did not have a state assigned to them. And, you know, does that matter? No, it doesn't. I mean, at the grand scheme of things, of the let me clear that filter out. Of the 512,000 adverse reaction cases reported in 2021 for all vaccines, this includes flu vaccine, hepatitis vaccines, HIV, HPVs, right? Meningitis, it looks like here, MMR. You know, these are all the smallpox, RVX, DTaP, all these vaccines, man, right? Look at the data. Look at the normalization of the data. 1, 2, 3. I mean, like, think about it like Matrix. If you're just looking at the data here, 1, 2, 3, you know, just short numbers. Look at that. Look at that. This is normal, I would say, vaccine adverse reaction reporting across state, across type, and across manufacturer, right? And so when people say to you, it's a fraction of a percent of people who get vaccinated that get damaged. This section right here supports that. And I would, from a data analyst perspective, say, yes, that's correct. A fraction of people who got these vaccines actually get reported to the VAERS, assuming they know how to do that, if the hospitals report that. And it's not much, okay? It's really not shit, right? Like, there's 512 total VAERS reports in 2021 here in by September. 512,000 reports, okay? 512. But when we get up here to the COVID vaccine, look at the numbers. Remember, I just showed you all that matrix 1Z, 2Zs, 10Zs, 5Zs, 4Zs, 11Zs. That's okay. I think that's fine. To me, that sounds like take those vaccines if you want, and you probably are going to make it all right. 99.999% good to go. But when we get to the COVID data set here, this is crazy, right? This is crazy. And remember, we're going by state. So remember that number I told you a minute ago, like a couple seconds ago, 512,000 adverse reaction vaccine reports to the VAERS database, 512,000 total. 503,000 of those, right? So that ends up being 500. That means 17,000 of them are not COVID related. So, 99% of all the VAERS reports here, let's just do the math on that. So what, 503,000 divided by 512,000, right? So what is it, 503 divided by 512 equals 98% of all the VAERS cases reported in 2021 as of today, September 3rd, 2021. 98% of all the VAERS adverse reaction vaccine cases are COVID related, right? Like, that's crazy. So that's just one pivot table here. And we haven't even gotten into the good stuff, right? So let's do another one. Let's just take a quick look of, I'm just gonna copy this pivot table over into another sheet here, and we're gonna do another quick analysis. So what I wanna see is the COVID only, right? COVID only, boom. Here's our vendors. And I don't care about states. I'm thinking I just want to do I want to do that thing with the symptoms. So let me refresh my data here because I added that VLOOKUP column of symptoms in there. And I should probably get rid of my formula so this spreadsheet performs a little better. Right now I'm actually running on a Windows Surface Pro 7 here. Like 16 gigs of RAM. So, it's not exactly a computer powerhouse, you know what I mean? But it gets the job done for what we're doing here. So let's look at symptoms. And how do we want to do that? I say we do manufacturers, boom. And then let's start looking at symptoms. And this may not work. This might be a fail. But let's just see what we get here. Thinking really hard. Okay, symptoms. And then, do I want to do VAERS cases? I don't know if that's going to work. This isn't going to work. I probably should have prepared a little better before going this far into the analysis. This may not work because remember, I concatenated all those symptoms into one because they had the data blocked out. Anyway, so let's just look at some of these symptoms. Acetic acid in urine, abdominal pain. Okay, yeah, let's just do death. Let's do a search for death. Oh shit. Abdominal pain, death. See, so I did a filter and I keyworded the search for death. And we have 2,600 death lines here. But that ends up being a total of 5,000 deaths. Yeah, look at this. Sudden death, sudden cardiac death. Myocardial infarction, that's a heart attack. Near-death experience. Pulmonary embolism. So let's look at the, hold on, wait. I just saw. Look at all these deaths. Because remember, I concatenated. Right, 2,600 lines here. Let's just prove my sanity on this. Symptoms. 2,600 lines. This is the 680,000. Let's put in death into my concat. Yeah, concat death. Oh man, I think I broke it. Yeah, I probably broke it. This is a small computer. This isn't like my work computer, which is a beast. Yeah, we're running on performance mode, so this is full tilt status here. Let me close some shit. Maybe we'll run a little better. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you, real quickly before we crashed the computer here. Multi-organ disorder. I saw fetal death in here. Obesity. So what? Obesity is a symptom of a vaccine? That's stupid. Why the fuck would they put that in there? That's stupid. Pain in the extremities, prostate cancer. So these are symptoms that are probably not related to the vaccine. I don't know. I mean, I guess someone got prostate cancer from it, right? Pulmonary fibrosis, pulmonary embolism, pulmonary imaging, renal failure, refused treatment by patient and they died, respiratory distress, respiratory arrest, vomiting, resuscitation, respiratory disorder, SARS-CoV-2 antibody test. Like, it's a crazy amount here, guys. Like, and look, this is the VAERS data. And if you believe this data, I'm just given this data, all right? It's not like I have access to anything other than, right? I don't believe the VAERS data reporting system. In fact, I would imagine that of, let's say, a small town of, 100,000 people, one hospital, 100 cases a day, right? 50 people ICU beds and probably 2 to 5 deaths a day, right? Like, I don't think that the hospitals are reporting that the person who is vaccinated just died. The person who is not vaccinated, I think that of that 2 to 5 deaths a day in that small 100,000 town scenario with 150 people in the hospital and 50 people in ICU, 2 to 5 deaths a day, I would imagine that the people who were vaccinated who actually died, that those cases were not uploaded into VAERS. I would put money on that. You know what I mean? Like, I doubt it. I doubt that people who are having adverse reactions and didn't die, right? So not talking about deaths here, are probably not contacting their doctor and saying, hey, I'm having an adverse reaction. I'm having, abortion, spontaneous abortion, right? Abdominal pain, upper spontaneous blood test, exposure during pregnancy, fetal death. I doubt, if you took 10 people, surveyed them who were all vaccinated, and let's say 8 to 7 of them had adverse reactions, I would doubt even one person even reported this shit to their doctor and that this even made it to the VAERS website, right? That's like probability gap number 1, I would say. I doubt it, right? I doubt, 500,000 cases here of adverse reactions of the 513,000 cases, so 98% of these COVID cases from the vaccine, right? Vaccine adverse reaction. I would say that 500,000 in 9 months, man, that number is probably higher than that, based on that first probability I just gave you, right? You got 10 people, they all took the vaccine. Let's say 7 to 8 of them have an adverse reaction that matters, right? Not like sniffles or sore throat or arm issues, right? But like a serious one, like where they go to the hospital or they're really scared, they're getting anxiety because they don't know what's going on. I doubt those people, A, called their doctor, B, called the hospital, C, were admitted to the hospital, D, went to their doctor, and E, the effing doctor actually reported that in the VAERS system. I would say that, let's just throw a number out there. We said 500,000 cases reported in VAERS. I would say that number in reality is probably close to 50 million people who got the vaccine or something like that and got hurt as a result. So I'm very suspect of this data and what's going on here. I think 500,000 seems a little low. Right? Like, and to test that, let me ask you a question. How many people do you know in your life who took a vaccine for whatever reason and contacted or uploaded their shit to VAERS? Just ask someone, hey man, you ever had a friend, like ask them, do you ever had a friend or a family member who had an adverse reaction to a vaccine? Oh yeah, my uncle, he took HPV or something in high school and, now he's got cancer on his butt, or something, right? Just something. And then you ask that guy, hey, so did he report that to VAERS? The answer is probably no. Of everyone I doubt anyone who had a vaccine and a adverse reaction to it ever reported it to VAERS or it got its way to VAERS. So that's what I'm getting at here, right? Like the question isn't, are vaccines dangerous or something along those lines? Because, I'm a non-vaccine person. I don't take flu vaccines, HPV, or none of that stuff, okay? I'm just being honest and open here with my experience. And I haven't taken a COVID vaccine, and I don't want to, but I'm having to look at the data here. When I see this kind of data right here, I think, okay, onesie twosies, out of 370 million people here in America, only 13,000 cases or something like that of adverse reactions to vaccines. I see that as a win. Like, okay, then based on the VAERS reporting system information here, of 300 million people in America vaccinated, there's only 13,000 adverse reactions. Then to me, it sounds like the number statistically, what is that, -1? Yeah, 99.999% of people do not have an adverse reaction, right, to any vaccine. But that's not the case when we get to COVID vaccine, right? We have 503,000 reported vaccine adverse reactions in America, and I am very concerned that we have 500, so let's run that math, right? 503,000 adverse reaction cases. And I don't know how many people are vaccinated in the country. That number is pretty sketchy. I don't know, because they changed, they moved the goalpost on what they call a vaccinated person. I'm Googling on another computer here to see what the number of vaccines in the United States are. So they're saying total doses given 372 million. And then people fully vaccinated is 175 million. So 175 million people are fully vaccinated. And this is off Google. I typed in vaccinated COVID Americans. It said United States, all regions, all time, COVID-19. So they're reporting 175 million people are fully vaccinated. Let's just go with that number. So 503,000 cases reported to VAERS. Gives us a 99.7% of not having adverse reactions, which is probably in line with what I suggested a moment ago. Like when I look at this data here, there's onesie twosies of all these vaccines by company and by type, right? So measles, mumps, rubella, right? If you look at the measles, mumps, rubella cases in the year of 2021 up to September 3rd, 2021, across all states, there have only been 171 vaccine adverse reaction cases reported to VAERS for measles, mumps, rubella. And I think almost everybody gets that vaccine who's born in America. That's a fairly high percentage of people who aren't getting hurt, right? But again, how many people actually make it to the VAERS database? And then, question number 2, how many of these VAERS cases actually survived to today, right? Like, I've seen so many articles of people saying that the data was deleted, was screwed around with, a lot of things are being omitted. They're saying people who died of the vaccine are died of COVID and not of the vaccine, right? Like, how many of those cases have you heard of? How many people have you heard say that? I think there's probably a bunch. And so that's kind of where I'm getting at. If there's only 503,000 adverse reactions, 503,000 adverse reactions, even if that was true and real, man, that's a lot of people. That's like a town where I came from of 120,000. That's like 5 of those towns put together, right? Think about how many people that is that have had an adverse reaction to this. And so, look, man, data's data. And your data set is only as good as the shit that's in it. And the accuracy is only as good as the people who, like the people who manage the data, who are putting the data in, right? And so for me personally, I don't believe this data on many levels, right? Like I can show you with this data how it's good, and I can show you with this data how it's bad. And to me, that strikes to the incoherency of the data, right? And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to say yes or no. I personally don't want to get the vaccine. Not interested in it. I would rather wait for another version of the vaccine. In fact, let's just talk about that for a second. This isn't even a vaccine. This is an mRNA gene therapy. Vaccines traditionally in America, when you talk about like HPV, polio, or something like that, flu vaccine, we're talking about a syringe that has a substance in it, and inside that substance is a certain amount of live attenuated version of said virus that you're trying to vaccine against, right? That's a vaccine. What we have here is not that. We have is a mRNA spike protein generator where your body is being taught to learn how to create spike proteins. And the way they work is they go in there and they damage, the virus or something like that and prevent it from replicating in your system, right? So it's like a mechanical way to stop a virus, right? But then there's the question of people who are losing their antibody levels over a certain amount of time. And that number appears to be increasing, right? So as time goes by, people who were vaccinated in January and February, now here in September, according to Fauci and the CDC and the NIH, they need a booster because their levels of antibodies have gone down sharply. And those people, though, who are vaccinated are still out there, without a mask, getting on planes, airplanes, eating in, restaurants, shaking hands, kissing, all that stuff, going to clubs, bars, etc., rodeos, concerts. And here in September, coming up on October, we're talking 9 months out. And if those people have not gotten a booster in the last 30, 40 days, just going by the science, their own numbers, and what Israel has done and some other countries are reporting, those people are no longer vaccinated in terms of the effectiveness of their antibody generation. So their antibody generators, a generation number is below 500 at that point, and they are no longer safe to go and live life as normal. And so we're seeing the situation now where first vaccine, 30 days, 60 days later, second vaccine, 8 months later, 9 months later, third booster, third shot, which is now booster 1, right? Dude, what happens 9 months from today, right? So we're talking July 2022. Are those people going to have to get another booster? And then 9 months from then, right? And so that ends up being March of 2023. Are they going to need another booster? Right? Like, this is why I don't want to get the COVID vaccine, so-called vaccine, mRNA spike protein generator, because it looks like these people are going to become dependent on the antibody enhancements provided by the spike protein mRNA algorithm or something, that you download into your body with this jacketed vaccine virus, whatever you want to call it. And so I want you to think about the numbers here. VAERS, as of September, from January 21 to September 21, is reporting 500,000 adverse reactions per 100 and something million fully vaccinated people. Okay, so what happens after the first set of boosters? Like here in September, they're going to roll out boosters. September, October, November. So I imagine Q4 of 2021, September, October, November, December, most of those people are going to get a booster, right? 175 million fully vaccinated people. You know, let's just say 75 to 125 of those people get a booster now, right? Are they going to encounter adverse reactions? Are those adverse reactions going to get reported? Let's say they do. 500,000 cases as of now of adverse reactions reported officially. That number now is a million. And then the next booster, you know, July 2022, another 500,000. And then the next booster, March 2023, another 500,000. We can expect to see the numbers going up, and as more people get, you know, vaccinated with dose 1, dose 2, now 3, we can start to see mathematically the exponential increase of these. So we go from 500,000 in 9 months to 1.5 million by summer 2022, right? And then, like I said previously, if those cases reported in VAERS only represent a small fraction of reality, you know, 500,000 per 175 million is probably close to 50 million, I would think, or a couple of million, right? 10 million. When we talk about booster shot 1, which is shot number 3 for people, booster 1, I mean, that number goes to like 60 million. Booster shot 2, which is shot number 4, by, you know, May or March of 2023, now we're talking 50 to 60, 70, 100 million cases of VAERS. Do you see how these numbers quickly can get out of hand? And that's why I don't want to take this. Because I feel like, A, once you take it, there's a chance you can get hurt. B, it's not going to get reported. C, now you're on it. Now you're stuck. And you need to get these boosters every 8 to 9 months. 6 months, I think, is what Israel's saying. 6 months. Every 6 months, get a booster. Man, that's crazy. So you're going to roll the dice every 6 months and get and potentially have a 1 to 2% chance of getting an adverse reaction. Dude, that's Russian roulette. You take a revolver pistol, you put one round in one of the chambers, and you spin it, and every time you pull the trigger, you got a 1 in 6 chance of it getting hit. And then you do it every 8 months. I mean, it's just a matter of time mathematically. Right? I mean, think about it. You take the first shot, that's one. Okay, that was an empty chamber. You're safe. Whew, good job. You take the second shot, nothing happens. Okay, whew, safe. Good job. But the next time you take that, you take the first booster, you pull the trigger on yourself, man, dude, that might be the bullet. And you get a reaction. Okay? It wasn't bad. You survived it. You're good. 6 months, 8 months later, you take another shot. Dude, I mean, like, every single time you take one of these shots, your chances increase. And that we're not even talking about, like, all the other stuff. People are saying that as people are getting these vaccines, that the rest of their immune system is becoming compromised. So now you're susceptible to bacteria. Now you're susceptible to fungal infections. Now you're susceptible to all these other things because your body has been optimized to only handle viral load or something along those lines with the spike protein. And everybody will tell you, like you buy a car that's very fast and very all this and all that. Well, it's also very weak in terms of structural. It's also very probably heavy because of the engine or something, right? And there's not room for a passenger. You don't have a trunk, right? Or the other way, you buy a truck and it's got this payload capacity and it can tow a huge trailer. Well, it's also probably not very fast. And it's probably also, very heavy, very big, right? Like as you optimize things for specific needs, you lose things for other possibilities, right? So, the guy who's married has 4 or 5 kids, he has a Corvette. Well, he can only roll one kid in the car at once. One seatbelt. One passenger spot in that Corvette, but the car is optimized for speed. And that's how I look at this COVID thing. People who are getting vaccinated with this are optimizing their body to handle the COVID-19, which is a problem, okay? I'm afraid to get the virus myself. I'm taking every step I can to not be around people, to wear a mask, to sanitize, wash my hands, vitamins, lots and lots of vitamins. I'm taking zinc, I'm taking colloidal silver. I'm taking everything I can to not get this goddamn virus. I'm not going to parties. I'm not eating in restaurants. I'm not going to birthday parties. I'm not going to softball. I'm not going to church. I'm literally staying in my house, and when I go to a grocery store, I spend 10 minutes out there with a mask on, and I go to the meat, to the vegetables, to the bread, to the milk, to the egg, out the door, dude. I'm out of their store in 15 minutes, and that's the only time I expose myself in the public, right? Other than my job, which is, 3 days a week I have to go to a damn building and sit in the building, right? With a mask on the entire time, and I try to stay away from everyone, especially people who got the sniffles, especially people who have children who are in school, and especially people who are vaccinated. I do my best to stay away from those people as much as possible. I limit my time while I'm wearing a mask around anyone, and I'm wearing a mask the whole time. If you got a vaccine, dude, I'm only going to be in your personal space for like a second. I'm going to be a 6 foot length away from you. And if you have small kids and you're vaccinated and you got the sniffles, dude, I'm not going to be anywhere near you. I'm going to be working outside that day in a parking lot or something. So, I'm doing everything I can to protect myself, to protect my family, to not have to depend on the vaccine to maintain staying out of the hospital from COVID, because that's a problem. I got family members who went to the hospital, and I'm very concerned about this, right? Like, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to hurt anyone. And I'm doing my best to get in shape, running miles, eating good, keto, all that shit, man. Vitamins out the wazoo, drinking a lot of water. Don't drink any Cokes. I don't drink any sugars. I don't consume sugars. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that stuff, man. I don't smoke cigarettes, none of that stuff, dude. I'm doing everything I can to stay in prime fighting condition. And then I'm limiting my chances of getting the vaccine because I'm not exposing myself to people who have kids in schools, who have the vaccine, or just people in general, non-vaccinated people as well. I'm just not exposing myself, man. And it's cool because I was already an antisocial person to begin with, right? It's not like I need friends. It's not like I need people to like tell me you're awesome. I don't need that stuff, man. Get the hell away from me, dude. I don't like people that do that anyways, And I look at that attack profile the same way I look at this vaccine shit. I don't want to expose myself to this stuff. And so the same precautions I'm going to take around people that are vaccinated, unvaccinated, with kids, without kids, people who are sick or not sick, just people in general, I'm going to limit my exposure to them 100% if possible. And I plan to do the same thing with these vaccines. Limit my exposure to them as much as possible so that I don't have an adverse reaction, so that I'm not another number on this list. So that's all I got for this one, man. Just wanted to have a chat. Y'all take it easy.